of you want to know?
Big, popular.
Hey, Joel.
Did you pick a card for the new year yet?
Change is coming.
Out with the old, in with the new.
Exactly.
I'll see you soon.
All right, bye. Mama Bear, come here, give me a hug.
Hey, look at the angles.
How have you been?
Okay, he's spoken for.
Remember when you guys were just switching each other in and out of your bedroom? Like the sluttiest game of musical chairs?
And you guys?
Oh, yes.
We don't have to do this.
The game?
Yeah.
No, babe, I want you. I don't want things to be different just because I'm here.
Oh, Jesus. Who is this stranger?
You were my first midnight kiss. Now I would be your last.
Hi, this is Russell Todd from Chopping Mall, He Knows You're Alone, and Friday the 13th Part 2, and you're listening to The Hysteria Continues.
And indeed you are. Welcome back to The Hysteria Continues. This is episode 302. And this time we are covering Midnight Kiss, which was one of those into the dark made-for-TV movies. It was kind of a TV series, wasn't it? We were just talking about this before we started recording. It was a series of films that were done with Hulu and Blumhouse in collaboration. And there wasn't the only slasher in this, was it? I think School Spirit was another slasher.
Yeah, I've seen School Spirit. It's not bad. There's a few more slashers, I believe. My Valentine might be a slasher. I haven't seen it, but I saw I'm Just Fucking With You, which is not a slasher, and then Puka, which is, I guess, kind of a monster movie, sort of. But there's like 24 episodes.
Okay, yes. Well, we're covering, and this was a suggestion, wasn't it, of a listener. Is it Nick Mua?
Yeah, Yannick Mua or Nick Mua or Moi. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, so I'm sorry, Nick or Yannick. But he was really champing at the bit for us to talk about this. And what's funny is, like, you know, he kept asking, you know, when's this going to happen? When's this going to happen? I'm like, soon. I'm thinking, this dude really loves Midnight Kiss. And then I went and read some of his comments on our feedback, and he just seems kind of nonplussed about it. I'm like, okay, then why did you pick it, dude? But yeah, I am kind of looking forward to talking about it, you know, either way.
Okay, well, the distinctive thing, I guess, about Midnight Kiss is it's a kind of a gay slasher, isn't it?
Super gay,
and we can talk about some of the kind of other gay, lesbian. I don't know if there's any transgender, but there's certainly quite a few kind of sort of gay-friendly slashers that have come out over the last 20 years. So Midnight Kiss, we'll be coming onto that, not literally. That joke never gets old, does it, Erik? How are you doing?
That's how I'm doing. I feel as if somebody has thrown string at me.
Oh.
Well, it wouldn't be an episode without someone throwing string on you.
Yeah.
Arcing ropes of string.
Yes, I imagine some kind of stringy things comes in your face more than once over a weekend.
My goodness.
What, like
begins
thread?
Already.
What?
What'd you say, Joseph? Something bold?
I don't remember.
You'll have to listen back like everyone else, Erik. So, anyway, Erik, I'm glad to hear you're channeling your inner Mrs. Voorhees. So, Nathan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm okay. Are you excited to be talking about Midnight Kiss?
Yeah. It's got a lot of like butts in it.
It's got a lot of butts. Yes, there are probably more butts than most slash movies put together, I imagine, and that's something I'm sure, Joseph, that attracted you to Midnight Kiss in the first place.
Oh yes, I oiled my chest and coiffed my hair and went to Banana Republic and got dressed before I watched this movie.
Excellent.
I'm being very stereotypical, sorry.
Yes, well, we'll be talking Midnight Kiss in a more semi-serious way coming up. Before we do that, in time-honoured tradition, we'll have a little chat about what we've been watching recently. So, Erik, have you caught up with anything you want to tell us about?
Kiss my ass, cunt.
Sorry, I'm just
He's soundboard heavy today.
I'm soundboard heavy today. I'm just hyper from my Pepsi. I saw, after your recommendation on the last episode, Crystal Eyes, which was the modern Argentinian giallo. Yeah, It's quite something. I have to say that I was going to enjoy it regardless, just from the solitary fact that the killer is so unique in it. He or she, I should say, looks really weird in that get-up costume. And the fact that they're posing and throwing shapes as if they're on a catwalk as they're approaching their victims makes it certainly a one-of-a-kind viewing experience. I mean, the film is lacking, I thought, a central character as such throughout the whole movie. I mean, we get our final girl, but it felt to me like she only makes her proper appearance sort of late into the film. So structurally, it was kind of off, but for a low-budget Argentinian giallo to look this good, and as you said, the interiors of one of the houses looks exactly like the sleeping quarters of whatever her name is from Suspiria, Susie, I think it is.
Imelda Marcos.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was brilliantly entertaining. It was kind of funny, but it wasn't overtly. It wasn't going down the same route as sort of scary movie type of funny, but it was really, really funny, I thought. I mean, it sets up this character, Alex something. Yeah, you see, I've done my research. I didn't take any notes on this when I was watching it, but she said she's a supermodel at the start who gets killed in an accident, and that sets up the murders that happen later. And
Alexis Carpenter.
That's it, Alexis Carpenter, and she's such a super bitch. It's absolutely hilarious. She's like something straight out of Dynasty or Melrose Place. I thought she was just so wonderfully over the top, and she throws hot coffee into her makeup artist's eye as well, which is a key plot point. Yeah, I thought it was brilliant. Really, really, really fun. 80 minutes as well. Take note, people. 80 minutes is a good duration. And just, as I said, it's worth it just for that killer alone. They could plonk that killer into, Hollywood's New Blood, and it would make it a really watchable film. So, yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thank you for the recommendation, because I'd never heard of it 7 days ago.
Okay, well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. And I think, Nathan, you saw it as well, didn't you?
I did, and I absolutely loved it. The killer's outfit is one of the creepier ones that I've seen. Like, I think that would be kind of scary, and I love the scene in the parking garage where the killer is doing these kind of like model poses, menacing one of the models. I thought that was a lot of fun. And I told you guys this, but my track record for not guessing the killer correctly is still intact because I got this one wrong as well.
Oh, I thought you got that one right, or did I misread that?
No, I got it right.
Yeah, Erik got it right.
I know you got the killer right on the Midnight Kiss, didn't you? You were saying.
I was super excited. See, I made up for Crystal Eyes with Midnight Kiss.
Is that because the cast doesn't go into double figures?
Well, that sounds shady, Justin.
It does sound shady.
Does it? It's just stating the facts. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah. Granted, there aren't many to choose from in Midnight Kiss,
and half of them are already dead. But anyway, I digress. Thank you, Nathan. Joseph, did you get a chance to watch that?
No, I have not, and I can go ahead and tell you to skip me on recently seen because I've not seen one damn thing since we've recorded last, except for what we're talking about on the show. So
okay, because we're as is would be typical of one of Erik's nights out. We're cramming two shows into 1 week, aren't we? More or less. Well, normally we have a 2 week break between shows, but we are sort of cramming them all in. So yes, I'm impressed that you got to see something. Did you see anything else, Erik?
No, that was it.
Okay, Nathan, how about you?
Well, I finally got around to watching Shutter Island.
You talked about that last time.
No,
he's being silly.
Oh,
no, I haven't had a chance to watch anything else aside from what we're covering.
Okay, so that's the new Alan Dale, isn't it? I can tell.
We haven't mentioned him in a while.
No,
we haven't. No.
Where's he been? Where's been the girl with the giant hair that turns into a big cockroach?
Yeah.
All the greats. Well, see, we're breaking the curse there. We just got reintroduced them. So, okay, and Joseph, you've not seen anything. So I haven't seen any films as such, I don't think. But There are a couple of things I could quickly mention. One is I've started watching the new series of Fargo on Amazon Prime, which I'm only really mentioning it because I saw the first two series of Fargo, and I kind of just dipped back into this one, and it's really good. But the reason I'm mentioning it seems to be there's a lot of kind of home invasion, Your Next style stuff going on, kind of Home Alone, adult Home Alone stuff going on in this. Which just kind of made me think of kind of the slasher movie style thing, although it's not really a slasher movie at all. But if you're a fan of Your Next, then there's quite a lot of that shenanigans, at least in the first 4 episodes that I've been watching. And it's also got Jennifer Jason Leigh playing ultra icy, bitchy kind of millionaire. So I'm having fun with that.
I'm really excited because we were down to 2 shows, me and Wes were, that we were, going to watch, and we decided on Broadchurch. So we've been watching that, but Fargo was next on my list. So I'll be going to the first season.
Although it's worth mentioning that it's they're all standalone stories with a few interconnecting characters, I think. Quite often they're set in different time periods as well. So just FYI, but I've enjoyed the ones I've seen. As I say, I haven't seen episodes, series 3 and 4. The other thing I watched on recommendation was on BBC iPlayer, which I presume it was an MGM Plus series. So I'm presuming that has been out in the States. Was Amityville: The Origin Story, which is a 4-part, 4-hour sort of look back at the Amityville horror. And obviously, I think MGM made the movies, so there's lots of stuff from the movies, lots of clips, and they kind of delve back into it. But there's lots of stuff I didn't know, because I kind of knew quite a lot about the Amityville horror from it being released back in 1979 when I wanted to see it as a 10-year-old. And I've regaled, I'm sure, seeing the infamous shot of the little boy at the top of the stairs with the white eyes, and it was on I was off school ill, and it was they showed it on a lunchtime TV program called Pebble Mill, which you probably didn't get that, Eric, did you?
We did.
Probably before your time. Oh, you did get Pebble Mill.
Yeah,
okay.
It was around. I remember watching Toya on Pebble Mill at one.
Yes, yeah, it was quite low cost. It was that kind of lunchtime kind of stuff, so they could probably afford it. But they had the Lutzes on there being interviewed with that famous photo, and I can still remember that to this day. That kind of gave me the creeps. But yeah, it's kind of interesting because it goes into lots of different things around the Fayot murders, but also to the films, and they have Diane Franklin talking about her playing the Fayot sister in Amityville 2: The Possession. So if you're a fan of the movies, it kind of goes into quite a lot of that, and also it does cover tangentially a little bit Amityville Karen, which you mentioned. So they say there's all the Amityville in Space and Amityville Werewolf. They kind of towards the end, but there's some interesting stuff there, and especially actually it was the kind of interview with one of the Lutz sons who was talking and saying that there was actually some haunting in the house, but it was completely kind of exaggerated by his parents for kind of money-making purposes, but there was something actually going on in the house, which I didn't realise. So anyway, if you've got BBC iPlayer, you can watch that for free. I presume it's on some kind of MGM Plus channel in the States. So is that it? I don't think there's anything else to cover. So what do we have for Midnight Kiss? Do we presumably don't have a trailer, or do we have a trailer?
We do have a trailer. It's a Hulu teaser trailer.
Well, we'll play with that. And whose choice is this?
This is mine.
It's yours. Okay, Joseph, after this, if you want to come in and tell us about Midnight Kiss.
Oh, she's a model. Yeah.
Oh my God, you're so excited.
And who do we have here? Who is this stranger?
A group of gay best friends and their gal pal head to a desert home to celebrate New Year's Eve. But when a sadistic killer wants in on the party, relationships are tested and secrets are exposed as the night turns into a fight for survival. And that was the official synopsis from the Hulu streaming service for Into the Dark's Midnight Kiss, or simply Midnight Kiss, whichever. And this was chosen, as we said, by listener Nick Moi, or Mua. And I suppose the most interesting thing about the film is that it's something a tad new for us, as if you're not totally aware. As we've said, Into the Dark is this kind of anthology series, not unlike, say, Black Mirror from Netflix, but with less of a sci-fi bent and more of a generalized horror approach. That and, rather than being a standard hour-long episode, each segment is a feature-length film. And for me, I think the interest pretty much stops there for Midnight Kiss, I'm afraid. The plot more or less follows that kind of tried and true structure of a defining incident coming back to haunt characters years later. And in this case, it's a group of gay characters who are, champing at the bit to kind of participate in this New Year's Eve game where they all just kind of kiss someone who's not their significant other. As long as there's, what's the word I'm looking for? What's the word I'm looking for? Help me out, guys. Consent. Yes, thank you. The defining incident comes back to haunt them years later in the form of a psychopath. So there's nothing too deep about the plot, but that's fine. It opens with a pretty shocking shower murder, and then goes on to implement a few clever kill scenes and sight gags along the way, not least of which is a forced kind of deep throat of a broken champagne bottle. And then one victim-to-be has his mouth stuffed with fireworks late in the film. And I'm thinking the Sigmund Freud in me would probably say that might be telling. I don't know. The killer brings about shades of the murderer from Cruising, wearing this kind of creepy pup mask. And the themes here, I guess they kind of borrow heavily from that film as well. But the problem is I just didn't care. I mean, first of all, there's absolutely no suspense for a couple of reasons. The murders just kind of happen with no build-up. You won't get a chase scene or even a stalking scene beyond that opening shower murder. And I think the biggest sin is that all of the characters are very forgettable. They're kind of defined by nothing else except for who they once fucked, who they are currently fucking, and who they hope to fuck later in life. I kept hoping, one or the other would have a defining character trait beyond who they want to sleep with. I mean, it's not only monotonous, but I think does a bit of a disservice to some of the themes they're trying to achieve here. And the dialogue is often kind of rapid fire, with the end of sentences cut off by the next character in line to speak. And, if it weren't for the consistent sex rap sheet that they keep, checking off, I probably wouldn't remember a single character's name. As I said before, the film has a professional sheen to it, but there's no real atmosphere to be had. It's basically a bunch of just coiffed pretty boys in an Art Deco mansion standing around waiting to be killed. It really reminded me of The Pool from 2001, where every character is this kind of well-to-do poster child of an Abercrombie and Fitch catalog. But, at least there we had exciting kills and suspense sequences, and a few of the characters, they kind of go beyond their stereotypes in that film. Anyone with even the slightest bit of familiarity with picking out the mastermind in a whodunit will spot the killer pretty much from the off, for a couple of reasons, not least of which is the actor being the only person with any sort of name recognition. So, I don't know. I appreciated the film for what it tried to do, but it just didn't land for me at all. I mean, watching the movie for the show, I couldn't help but wish that Nick would have chosen an episode from something like Thriller, the Brian Clemens series, I think it is. That's not to say Midnight Kiss is bad. It's, it's perfectly watchable and is well made enough. But for me personally, it's just completely shallow and forgettable. So, I've decided to kind of choose who goes next in order of the least gayest to gayest. I know you guys are in suspense over who I think is the least gay of you three. So I'm afraid Erik and Nathan will have to remain in suspense to see who the queen truly is. Justin as the least gayest.
Justin is the queeniest of the three of us.
Justin is the queeniest of all of us. So obviously you're wrong.
I think Joseph knows what he's talking about. So anyway,
Justin's the one who wears makeup. I've never put makeup on my face.
Settle down, ladies.
Justin, as the least gayest of the three, in my opinion, what were your thoughts on Midnight Kiss?
Yeah, I kind of wanted it to be better. I think it is. I think serviceable is kind of is a kind of a good term for it. Really, it's I don't know. There's something to be said for these kind of Hulu or whatever kind of Hulu or this kind of straight to streaming movies you see a lot of. I can guess they're kind of versions of what you would see like straight to DVD or straight to VHS back in the early 90s. But they're kind of stripped of personality, and this is kind of unfortunate. Is the kind of case with this. I can appreciate what they're trying to do, but a film that did this much better for me is Hellbent, which is a movie I'd much rather we were covering, which concerned a group of gay friends in West Hollywood during, I think it was Carnival, being sort of stalked by a killer in a mask, which was much more entertaining for me anyway than this, and a film that I'm sure we will cover at some point. Now, it's not to say I hated this, because it does kind of a lot of things right. It's well acted. There's some gore. They kind of invert the kind of nudity thing that you have, like a shower scene. You have lots of no full frontal nudity, but lots of male butts in various stages. Throughout the movie, pretty much everyone, bar a couple of characters, takes their shorts off at some point. And I thought that the section towards the end, when for about 20 minutes, 20 minutes, kind of after the halfway point, they got quite suspenseful when you've got this kind of the main character, which is, I think it's Cameron, isn't it? Who kind of a date comes, they go to a club, and a guy comes back. You don't know whether or not he might be the killer, but then he goes missing, and he goes looking for him. And then he kind of realizes, I think they come across the body of one of their friends, and every character seems to disappear off in different directions. So you're in inverted commas, you don't know who the killer is, although it's kind of relatively obvious. But that was fairly suspenseful. That kind of running around the house, hiding from the killer. That did it. For me, I kind of sat up and took a bit of notice. But I don't know. It's something about. The fact is that I can appreciate making a thriller for a gay audience, or people, just general audience who don't care about it being a gay thriller, just want a good slasher movie. But why you have to, if you're making a gay thriller, you have to fill it through sex and sexual stuff all the time. I'm no prude, but it just gets a bit boring and a bit old. Really, to be honest, I'd rather an out-and-out slasher movie, which is what Hellbent is a much better example of a out-and-out slasher movie than this is. And if you've not seen it, then I definitely recommend going out and finding that. So, overall, it was a bit. I think a lot of these movies, like School Spirit and those, they kind of there's a kind of blandness to them. There's a kind of polish, which doesn't really go. Nothing much goes below the surface. So they're kind of almost like ultimate kind of fast food, where you kind of watch it and you've forgotten it. And it's kind of similar to this, and to be honest, I'm sure we'll spoil. I mean, I'll spoil it now. I mean, the fact is that the killer turns out to be Logan, who is played by Lucas Gage, who is, although I think you said he was kind of recognisable. I mean, he's kind of probably recognisable now because he was in. He's been in quite a few things, and he was in the first series of White Lotus.
He's in the 4th season of You as well. Right.
Okay. So he's much more recognisable now, but he turns out to be the killer. And he's the kind of fiance of another character, Joel. And his, if I'm right, his motive is just that 10 years before, or whenever it was, sometime before, they were at a New Year's Eve party, and he was kissed by the Cameron character. But he took. I don't. What is even his motive really? It's just really poor motive, isn't it? So kind of overall, it also has that kind of. Paucity of scale, it's you have the one scene in the nightclub which kind of goes on forever, and it's just kind of like, to be honest, I've never particularly liked nightclubs anyway, but they're, you've just got lots of characters standing around shouting over each other over the music. It doesn't really drive the plot forward at all. And then what should be that kind of and then there were none style thing at the back of the house is, it just feels like it has a kind of it has that kind of, nothing against TV movies, but it has that kind of paucity of scale, if we're trying to think of a better term, with that, which I think if a film had a bit more going on in it, or a bit more ambition, it would have been better. So overall, I didn't hate it. It's a fun enough watch. I think School Spirit is a better example of a slasher from Out of the Dark.
Into the Dark.
Yeah, it's Into the Dark. Sorry, I called it Out of the Dark. I keep it mixed up with that other slasher movie, the one from 1987. I think that's got Divine in it. I think. But anyway, so overall, it's a kind of thumbs middling kind of film. It didn't excite me too much, but I've seen a lot worse, put it that way.
All right, I've left Erik and Nathan in suspense long enough.
Who
is going to be the gayest? Well, sorry, Nathan, you're the gayest. Erik, what did you think of Midnight
all of
Kiss?
Eric's Bears and Bob Hoskin remarks,
Well,
I'm
you
the
just
gayest.
answered your own question with that catty little comeback.
I need
You're always
you.
talking about throwing champagne in people's face
right.
or martinis. Erik, your thoughts on Midnight Kiss?
Okay, well, I really enjoyed Shutter Island.
Thank you. It was good, wasn't it?
Yeah. Okay, so my first impressions of Midnight Kiss were that it wasn't just gay; it was super gay, as I said at the top of the episode. I mean, the opening scene has a guy who seems to be allergic to wearing his underpants, and he wanders around with his arse out for what feels like about 20 minutes. And as the film goes on, it just turns into much more of a major butt fest. I mean, that opening murder is quite good and does kind of imply that the film is going to be a fairly decent slasher film. The killer has that gimp mask, which kind of looked kind of Batmanish as well, I thought. And I assumed that he was murdered because he was reluctant to wear underpants. So watch out, Justin.
But didn't you think it was a bit sort of much that he was trying on all his underpants, his short swimming shorts, and then went and had a shower?
I know, it's so weird. It just seemed to be an excuse to get boys in the nip, basically. So after that initial scene of seeing the guy wandering around naked, I thought this strikes me as a film that's going to be a largely cliched view of the gay community. That we're all,
it was very David Dakota almost.
It was. It's not like we're all obsessed with having chiseled bodies, which I'm not, and walking around in the nude, which I only do in the summer. And it packs in all the cliches of what gay life is like: clubbing, promiscuity, bitching, hookups on Grindr, all this type of stuff. So this was kind of bugging me a bit. And as Justin was saying, the fact that you have half a dozen gay characters in a villa and two of them are homicidal, what exactly is the message? But I did kind of enjoy the film on a soap opera level, I would say. I mean, the various relationships between all the main characters is all but revolves around sex, as you were saying, Joseph, and it did irk me that everything they do is gay. They, every conversation involved between these characters is involves doing things that are gay. There's nothing. It just irked me, I have to say, because as life as a gay man, as you know, it's not all about clubbing and taking ecstasy and, hooking up on Grindr. It's not all about that. I did like the relationship between Hannah, the girlfriend, and Cameron. I thought those two were fairly likable. Now, before I watched the film, I checked out the IMDb score, and it's quite low. I think it was a 4.7 out of 10. So my expectations were very low when I started to watch it. So I was kind of pleasantly surprised that I found it fairly watchable. The plotting and the structure are kind of cookie cutter, and there's nothing terribly remarkable about the film. And the slasher element I felt was quite weak, particularly for the first hour of the film. Like, the slasher element is so far in the background that I kept forgetting I was watching what was supposed to be a slasher movie, and it felt more like an episode of Queer as Folk. Now, I was trying to think as well, had they replaced all of the fit, athletic young men with big, overweight, hairy men, would I have enjoyed it more? And yes, I'm so shallow to say that I would have definitely enjoyed it a lot more. I think the fact that it's...
As long as they were dead and decaying, maybe.
No. But just the fact that it's pretty boys walking around with their arses out just does nothing for me, and I just found it all kind of bland, I suppose. I thought the final half hour, the action did pick up. I mean, the killer, yes, even I managed to guess it, as we were saying, even me. And even the big red herring scene involving Joel suffocating that guy, I wasn't fooled by that. I knew that there was another killer there somewhere, and I knew who it was. Although, to be honest, I found the slasher section in the last 20 minutes to be probably less engaging than the earlier portion. I mean, I thought the film was fine. To me, it's kind of a 6 out of 10 film. In terms of a slasher film, the only real money shot you get, if you'll pardon that phrase, is where that really Queenie guy gets the broken champagne bottle shoved down his throat. Apart from that, there's not really a huge amount of slasher mayhem in it. So I thought it was well made. I thought the acting was good, as Justin was saying. I liked the characters of Hannah and Cam, so I thought it was fine. But yeah, I think Hellbent, from what I remember, is a much better film.
Have you, out of interest, Erik, have you seen Bear Creek?
No, but I want to.
It's from 2007. It's a bear slasher movie.
Ooh.
Apparently. So I think that might be, yeah. It's got 2 reviews on IMDb I just looked at, and one of them said 1 out of 10 unwatchable.
All right, Nathan. Super gay Nathan. What did you think of Midnight Kiss?
He's so gay.
I think I lean much more towards Justin's opinion in that I think definitely Hellbent is a much better film. And I was really aggravated with this movie because, like Erik said, the opening murder I thought was really well done. And I thought, okay, all right, I could be really on board for this slasher. And then there's like not another death for like 30 minutes. And then that death happens. And then there's nothing else again until the last like 15, 20 minutes of the film. So I just feel like there's so much nothingness in this movie, where it just meanders on. And I'm like, there should have been more friends at the house and more deaths, because I do think that the slasher stuff kind of took a back seat just to relationship dynamics amongst the group. And while I did really like the main guy, Cameron, and Hannah, like Erik, I thought they were, a lot of fun to watch. I particularly loved the scene with the sliding doors, when like the killer shows up and is like going after Hannah. I thought that was a fun like chase sequence and stuff. So, I mean, there are little things here that, I enjoyed in the movie, but my problem is, if you're going to make a slasher movie, like, there just needs to be more slashing. I mean, this was just, there was just a lot of dialogue that I didn't particularly find very interesting, like who used to sleep with who and who used to be in a relationship. And then this weird idea of this guy literally getting engaged to, someone he's supposed to be in love with. But then he's so insanely obsessed with another guy that he's willing to kill if the other guy hooks up. I mean, it's insane to me. I thought that Science in The Last Slumber Party showing up to make a kill made more sense than the second killer in this movie. I also just kind of felt like, why did they even do that? Because I didn't think that it really served the plot. I think that you could have taken that out and just had the killer kill that dude, and it wouldn't have changed anything, like majorly. Because, I mean, at the end, yeah, and he gets found out that he did that, but it's just so anticlimactic to me. Overall, I mean, it's tough because it's one of those movies that, I wasn't necessarily bored, but I was just thinking of all the ways it could have been better. And, because, they obviously have like a kind of a sheen, a polish to them, because, some of the death scenes are, really well done. I mean, the one guy that gets killed with the bottle, that was a really good scene. And I hope nobody thinks badly of me, but I was actually a little glad that he died earlier on.
But he was so likable.
He's one of the characters that I think small doses is fine. Don't need any, long conversations with him or anything. But yeah, I mean, overall, it's all right. I mean, I would probably give it a 5 out of 10. It's not bad. It's not great. It's just kind of there. And unfortunately, This is the second time I've seen it. I didn't remember anything from the first time. And if you ask me, probably in a few weeks, I probably won't remember it again. So, that's unfortunate, but, some movies just don't have that lasting impression.
Some movies that you pick.
You all remember Crazy Fat Ethel.
Well, we do.
Yes,
that's true.
Not for the right reasons, maybe. So, okay, well, any other thoughts on Midnight Kiss before we delve into what little background we probably need to find on this movie?
Yeah, I personally don't really have much else to say on this one. Sorry, Nick. I'm sure you probably wanted a dissertation on its themes, but I just thought it didn't have really any themes to speak of.
I just think they could have gone slightly more, a better sort of motive for the killer.
Yeah,
just seeing quite a weak motive that you go to all that kind of way to then not your revenge includes getting engaged to one of the characters and then living with them for months. But do we have any backgrounds? Has anyone got any backgrounds?
Well, except that it was directed by Carter Smith. Is that his name? Who directed The Ruins, which is a really good film, which this one isn't.
Yes, he also directed, which would be uber gay credentials. He directed Reach for the Stars for S Club 7, the pop video.
Did he?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that is probably the gayest pop video you'll ever see.
I think he directed a few country music videos too, which is kind of weird.
I did see his recent film, The Passenger, with Kyle Gallner. Which is kind of is worth a watch. Have you guys seen that? The Passenger. It was out last year.
No, I don't think so.
No, it's got
never heard of it.
Kyle Garner. I think he was in
Nightmare on Elm Street remake.
Yeah, he was, wasn't he? And was he also in what's that TV show? The one, the remake, the American one that was. I can't remember. Anyway, he is about a kind of Kyle Garner plays this. Co-worker at a fast food restaurant who just snaps and kills everyone, all the workers there apart from one guy, and then he makes him come in the car and they kind of drive around, and this guy's kind of hostage, but he's kind of waiting. He doesn't know how to get away from the main guy, so it's very well done, kind of suspense piece, but it kind of meanders a bit towards the end. But so it's interesting that he's kind of still, well, it's not interesting, but it's good he's still making movies. But like Erik said, The Ruins, I thought I think that was based on a book, but that was a bit more energetic, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else, Erik?
No, that was it.
Nathan, what about you?
All the actors were gay.
And that was a prerequisite, wasn't it, for Blumhouse? Which I think is good. It was good that they did that. It's just kind of a strange, in some ways, I was saying, it's strange that you've kind of got this as a kind of positive thing of doing that for a gay movie and making sure the characters are played by gay men, but then turning out the two of the killers are gay,
and making them all like just kind of cliches as well, which is fine, I suppose, but yeah.
You know what I would have done? I would have had Hannah be the killer, and she's tired of all of them like only thinking about their sex lives.
And Britney Spears.
So that's what I would have done.
Well, that would have been good. And Joseph, do you have any background or anything else you want to add?
Yeah, there's not much on this one, but apparently it was shot mostly in Santa Clarita, California, over a 16-day period. The subject of male nudity came up in relation to this film, and after a bit of worrying whether or not it would pass muster with censors, Blumhouse actually encouraged more male nudity and gave the makers kind of carte blanche to add as much as they wanted. And I think the shower kill of Ryan in the buff at the beginning was added last minute as a result of this conversation. And Lucas Gage, as we said, who plays Logan and who is also the murderer, was actually behind the mask for scenes featuring the killer. So I don't believe any stuntmen were used. And I believe he remarked at one point that it was hot as hell inside that pup mask. As we said before, the Into the Dark series from Hulu ran from 2018 and ceased production in 2021 and featured 24 basically full-length feature films acting as episodes, with Midnight Kiss being the 16th overall. Of those personally, I've seen Puka, I'm Just Fucking With You, Skull Spirit, and of course Midnight Kiss. I have not seen the remainder. And after watching Midnight Kiss, I'm honestly in no hurry. But yeah, that's about it, I'm afraid. Lucas Gage, as I said, was in the 4th season of You. I think he played a bully in it might have been a Disney kind of family film. I don't remember the name of it. But he's like the one lone face in this movie that you would recognize from other stuff. So obviously he's going to turn out to be the killer. But yeah, that's all I could really dig up on this one.
I have one more thing. There is a Hallmark movie called A Midnight Kiss, so don't get that one confused with this one if you're going to go watch.
That's the one I kept coming up on IMDb when I was looking for it.
Well, I think it's probably more likely the Hallmark fans would probably get a bit of a shock if they started watching this. Well, I've got a couple of little bits to add. One was I found an interview with Carter Smith from 2019, an interview with a website called Queer Horror Movies. I'll just read a little bit of a quote from him. He says, "We spent so many years having to wade through subtextual and coded representations in genre films. There's no shortage of queer subtext, sure, but it never really felt fair to me that I didn't get to see myself in the movies I loved growing up. Midnight Kiss is a start. Hopefully one day we'll have horror movies with Midwestern gays and East Coast gays and small town gays, and we'll get the same broad representation that straight characters have enjoyed for so long. Both Erlinger Forodsen, sorry I'm murdering that name, and I spoke at length about this in pre-production. Midnight Kiss is the movie that both of us wished we had growing up." So I think it's kind of interesting sort of saying about there've been so many kind of subtext and various things all the way through horror movies. In fact, there's actually really good on Shudder. I think it may even be called Queer Horror, when it kind of looks at that the representation of monsters through a kind of queer lens. It's about 4 or 5 part, which goes right back to the kind of the early days of horror and through sort of to sort of latter representations. But again, I would have issue with the fact is that he talks about a broad representation, but this doesn't feel like a broad representation. It feels like a very narrow representation of stereotypes, which is where I kind of take kind of issue with it.
I was going to say the same thing. It's like as the lone straight person on this show, I don't feel too comfortable bringing this up. But is this what he really thinks is representation? Just a bunch of guys who want to fuck? I mean, that's fine. I'm not a prude or anything, but there's more. There should be more to their characters. I don't think it's a very great generalization at all.
No, it's interesting. I mean, if you look at sort of like through some of the other kind of gay slashers, so we've mentioned Hellbent, which again, if you haven't seen it, it's definitely worth checking out. I think it's a much better movie. We covered Knife and Heart, didn't we? The French movie about a year or so ago.
Which was also better, yeah.
Yeah, although again, that is...
Cruising. Yeah,
Cruising, of course. There's also Make-A-Wish, which is the kind of lesbian slasher from, I think, 2004, which is worth a look. I mean, there are others out there. There was Drop Dead Gorgeous. No, is Drop Dead Gorgeous? No, Death Drop Gorgeous, which I started to watch and I couldn't get through the first 10 minutes of it. I don't know, did you see that, Nathan?
I didn't finish it either, I have to say.
Yeah, it was kind of striving for that kind of John Waters-esque thing, and
it was trying too hard.
Yeah, it's trying too hard, I thought, and it just kind of, it didn't work for me. But I might give it another watch at some point. But of course, if you do want to see, I mean, this for me, this is the film this reminded me of most in a lot of ways, was the endless David Dakota movies, which have got lots of kind of young men in their underpants
13 series, yeah.
Yeah, running around houses in their underpants being chased by a killer or a demon or whatever. But with less kind of like hand-wringing and sort of queer as folk kind of sitting around talking about relationships. So at least arguably the David Dakota movie is a little bit more honest about what they're trying to achieve, arguably.
If you're watching one of those, it's very obvious the only reason to watch it.
Yeah. So having said that, I don't know. I mean, it'd be interesting to know what the makers of Midnight Kiss think about it, 5 or so years later. It's great to see that these kind of movies are being made, but I think there's kind of more interesting ways, and also kind of more, if you are, like I think you said, Nathan, if you're going to make a slasher movie, make a slasher movie. You don't need a budget for a slasher. This is kind of like got TV budget. You don't need a budget for a slasher movie. And when the suspense kicks in this, it's done pretty well. So it could have done. It just could have done with more and a better motive. I think it would have been made for a better movie. But yeah. So what was the kind of consensus on the group, Joseph, on this one?
19 comments for Midnight Kiss, and from that, this one says, "It's a gay slasher, and there are so few, so it does quite well for what it is. I love the cast and the overall style and aesthetic." And that's from our friend Jake Helgren. This one says, "Never heard of it or seen it, but I know I hate it." And that's from Robert Long. Yeah, so follow us on Facebook and Instagram to stay up to date on all that we're doing. Listen on Amazon, Apple, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, and about 1 billion other podcatchers, both good and terrible. Join us on Patreon for as little as $1 per month to help support the show. Or if you're financially inclined, select a tier that fits your budget for that extra monthly bonus content. That's patreon.com/The Hysteria Continues, all one word. That goes for our email address as well, thehysteriacontinues@gmail.com. Over to you, Justin, the Queen Bee.
Queen A, or no, Queen C, perhaps.
Yep.
It depends which way we're looking at it. But yeah, thank you, and also Jake Helgren, of course, a friend of the show, and he's a director as well. He's made quite a number of slasher movies himself. So over the years, so yeah, always good to hear from him, and of course Robert as well. So, do we have any feedback this time before we get on to Erik's joke of the week?
No feedback.
No feedback. We've had quite a run of it, haven't we? So yeah, so do write in and let us know. So Erik, I can guess it is time. Let me just pull up the sound, the jingle. Let's see if you've. Let's see what your Midnight Kiss joke is.
It's my joke of the week. It's so freaking fantastic.
What do you call someone who really fancies people with mortgages? A homeowner sexual. Homeowner sexual.
Jesus Christ.
Oh. Wow, that was very offensive.
Special LGBTQ plus content for you this week.
Well, thank you, Erik. That was that must have taken. You must have been poring and over that for hours.
I sat down here at 1:58 p.m., realised I didn't have a joke of the week, and wrote it before you had time to ring at 2 o'clock.
That's kind of what I imagine your joke writing ritual is, isn't it?
Only about 80% of the time.
Okay. So, okay, well, this is going to be a short episode, only because, I don't know, well, there's not a great deal to say about Midnight Kiss, unfortunately. Although I appreciate Nick suggesting it for us. And given, like you said, his comments, Joseph, it doesn't sound like he's an uber fan of the movie anyway. But I think there's some interesting things to be said about it, which hopefully we've touched on, certainly in a wider context anyway, of kind of representation in horror. But so obviously from this, we're going to something much more highbrow and thought-provoking, aren't we, Nathan? What is your pick for us next time?
My pick is the wonderful film Sledgehammer from 1983.
Yes, that was all the slow-mo was referring to, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, there's lots of slow-mo.
Slow-mo shit on video.
Shit on video.
How dare you? You just haven't seen it again.
Yes. Well, what's that?
One of those movies, it takes like several viewings to really appreciate it. So I hope you guys watch it more than once.
It takes several viewings to make it through to the end.
You're talking about the nuance and the undercurrents and the kind of the hidden subtext of Sledgehammer.
Yes. I mean, there's like relationships, like the drama here in Midnight Kiss. There's relationship drama in Sledgehammer. There's the wonderful, heart-touching scene where the main guy like balances his beer can on his girlfriend's head.
In slow motion. Wow, dramatic.
Is that because they were trying to reach kind of 80-minute running time? Everything goes into slow motion all the time.
Maybe it may have been a way to kind of, and I always just felt that somebody like really loved using slow motion when they made this movie.
Yes. So, well, we're going to sign off now. We're just about to go and record our Patreon episode for Luigi Cozi's Contamination from 1980. So if you fancy hearing that, join us over on Patreon. But otherwise, catch us next time on the Hysteria Continues and for a little bit of Sledgehammer. So, Joseph, what are we playing out with?
This song is called Kiss Me at Midnight by Pansy Division. I've never heard it, but it seemed fitting.
Okay, were they kind of like a sort of Riot Girl type, sort of queer Riot Girl group?
I couldn't tell you.
Okay. Well, probably an apt choice.
This was a quick Google search because I couldn't think of a song to play out with.
Excellent. Okay. Right. Okay. Well, thanks for listening and catch us next time. And so goodbye from me, the least gay on the podcast. And on to you next, Erik, as the second.
I'm the second most gay. But Nathan's the gayest of us all.
Oh, Queen Nathan.
I think Joseph is the gayest of us all.
Ah, yes. There's a twist.
Yeah, that's the twist.
That is a twist.
Twist ending. Yeah.
So you didn't get a very good twist in the movie, so we offer you one on the show.
Exactly. So, yeah. Anyway, we love you all, and so we'll sign off with Midnight Kiss, and we'll catch you next time when Hysteria Continues. So thank you for listening, and say goodbye to the good people.
Bye.
So long.
Goodbye.
Bye.